if I could get in the door, I figured I could get hired, but how did I even get in the door? Um, so I decided to bartend at a country club here locally because I figured contractors would hang out there. And once they talked to me and got to know me, somebody would give me a shot, and that's what happened. So I got hired by SRS. Um, they told me it would take me about a year to learn roofing. It took me 6 weeks. So I started Roofing Utah in December of 2019, right before COVID. And we thankfully had about $750,000 that the previous roofing company that I worked for could not complete. So we did a lot of contract transfers and completed a majority of that work. And he had retained the deposits on those and was supposed to pay that as soon as he was paid by the carriers. However, in the state of Utah, if you are an unlicensed contractor, if you were an unlicensed contractor, which technically I guess that's what they considered him, you don't owe for overhead and profit. And so his huge accounts receivables balance went to zero. When we really gained a lot of traction was I was asked to speak at the IRE. I'm with a group called Certified Contractors Network, and I was asked to go with them and speak at the IRE on adding an additional stream of revenue to your business. Okay. I'm thinking we're talking gutters, solar, like something like that. And I get to the conference and I'm talking to the president and he goes, no, we want you to talk about you as the additional stream of revenue, you, the brand, and what your branding did to your business. And I'm like, that's a weird concept. Like, who is going to find any like value in that? But okay.
Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it. Okay, welcome to another episode of Pain Points, where real pain equals real growth. Today, I'm actually thrilled. We have guest Jen Silver. I've been trying to connect with her a couple times. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's an innovator in the space, recently getting into legal and trying to help out homeowners. And she's just a pioneer as far as in the true sense, as far as mentoring other homeowners or other business owners, and just trying to pay it forward and for free and for fun. I love the fact you have a no scarcity mindset. You, even when we first met, we're just giving out information freely.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't understand scarcity, right? It's a very difficult concept for me because there is, even inside the roofing space, right? There are so many roofs that need to be done. What I don't like is I losing to bad contractors, right? When I know that somebody is not going to do quality work, or they're not licensed, or the way they're presenting themselves is not true. But I don't mind losing work to good contractors because there's plenty of work for everybody. I've actually coached some of the contractors in Salt Lake, and people think that's so weird that I would do that. And it's like, why not? A rising tide, what is it? What is it? A rising tide raises all ships, right? It's the truth. Like, we want to be better. The roofing community doesn't necessarily have the best reputation. So if we want to be better, we need to help our competitors be better too and get that trust back from homeowners.
Was it one of your companies called Rising Tides, if I'm not mistaken, as well?
No, that
Okay.
is not one of them. So
Actually,
I have,
my holding company is actually called Rising Tides.
is it? No,
Based out of Vegas. Yeah.
my coaching company is DES, and that stands for Do Epic Shit. And that's always been my motto. And then I own Silver Lining Loss Consulting, and that's who is publishing my book, and supporting my congressional white paper. So yeah.
So before we get into your book, I think I want to end with your book, because
Yeah, no,
I think
totally.
there's just so much more meat onto who Jen Silver is and kind of like your history. But just for the viewers, because you have real humble beginnings, and you're also like one of the few women in the space in general. But forget women, you're an amazing entrepreneur. So I kind of want to go back to your a little bit of your story to
Yeah.
talk about what got you into roofing, kind of how you bootstrapped it together, how you didn't take loans out and that kind of stuff. Did it the
Yeah.
right way as far as a small business evolution.
Um, so in 2016, I found myself a single mom again, and I had little kids. They were 3 and 5. And for most people, when you send your kids to school the first time, what's going to happen? They get sick, right? Because I had been a stay-at-home mom. Um, my ex-husband was in the military, and I knew that there was no way that he was going to be taking time off. So re-entering the workforce was going to be a challenge. Now, in my previous life, aka my 20s, I was in the restaurant business, and I was a restaurant manager at 21. I was a GM by 24. I was a district manager at 27. And then I married the military and moved to Japan. So when we got to Utah, I really didn't know anybody. I did not want to go back into the restaurant industry just because the hours are crazy. Um, and I needed to figure something out. So I really started thinking maybe outside sales made sense, right? Because that's a pretty flexible career.
And
Um,
with wait staff and serving, this dynamic, it's improv, it's very dynamic setting. It's so that makes sense. So you're probably a people person if you're good at it.
yes,
You are.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, but
Before we get into that, just out of a curiosity question, I was interviewing somebody on my first podcast, and I'm curious. I know you already just said your evolution from 20 to 24, like the West restaurant manager progression. What was your work ethic like in high school and like the kind of those pivotal 14 to 18 year old like young lady in high school? Did you have that work ethic always? Were you in sports? Because that stuff is not, it's either inherent, I feel, in people, like you have it or you don't. But
yeah, I am. So I graduated with a 3.95 and I got a 1360 on my SATs. But I kind of said, fuck college because I don't know what I want to be. And I'm not going to go pay $60,000 for a piece of paper that I don't know if I'm going to need it. Right. I had a job at 15. I waited tables. I always had a job. I could have moved out at 16 and had plenty of money and supported myself and been completely fine. I ultimately moved out at 17, right after I graduated from high school. But I just couldn't understand the philosophy that in order for me to have worth, I needed to go to college. And that
yeah.
was the philosophy in the 90s, and I felt really bad because my parents were super disappointed, but that was me.
Were they entrepreneurs? Were they business owners? Was it humble? Was it just like humble beginnings for them as well, as far as like check to check kind of people? Can you?
No, well, no, they were pretty. My mom now has an MBA, but my mother has a very strong drive, and she wanted to go to college and married my dad, who was in the military. Moved to Germany, had a baby at 2020, which would have been me, and her life just didn't go that way. So she actually went into inside sales and grew herself inside of an aluminum cylinder company, to be their national sales manager.
Okay.
And
So
that
I'm just kind of curious of where that is. Usually it's sports, discipline, or some sort of hunger. So where did that hunger come from? What made you just become, because you're an overachiever. I mean, you just naturally have this gift to kind of always strive for more,
yes.
whatever that may be. So I'm just kind of wondering, where did that stem from? Was it from your parents?
Um,
Just
it stemmed from people telling me I couldn't do it,
okay.
right? Like, oh, you have to go to college or you won't be successful, right? That's really what drove me the most. When I wanted to become a restaurant manager at 21, they told me we don't hire 21-year-old restaurant managers.
Okay.
It's too young. And I was like, I've worked every position in this restaurant. Like I had already learned to cook. Like I had during the time waiting to turn 21, I had done it. And he goes, well, we just don't. And I said, okay, tell me what I have to do to become a restaurant manager at 21.
Okay.
And he
So I'm going to
gave
tell
me
you right
this.
now, we cannot make tens of millions of dollars together. So I'm going to tell you that right now. So I'm just
Okay.
never tell Jen no. Okay.
Yes, don't do that.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Um,
I derailed you. So you've
no,
always
you're
had this.
good. You're
You've always
totally
had
good.
this ambition, back against
Yeah,
the wall,
yeah.
single mom, needed to do something, thought about outside sales. So let's get back to that story.
Okay.
I'm always curious to like what drives people.
Yeah, that's my driving factor is proving people wrong.
Okay.
I know
So,
that maybe that's good, not good, but it is.
well, I just gave you a
Um,
challenge. So,
Outside sales, though, isn't like it can be unstable, right? And that part was scary because I tried it one other time in the mortgage industry in 2007 in Vegas, did really well
for
for,
about a year.
yeah, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I was trying to select an industry. Construction made a lot of sense to me. It's a stable industry. There's always something going on, no matter what the economy looks like, people are building. Um, but I didn't know anything about construction.
Okay.
I know I'm smart, really smart, and I can pick up things very quickly. But how do you take a resume that has no construction experience, right, and get in the door? If I could get in the door, I figured I could get hired, but how did I even get in the door? Um, so I decided to bartend at a country club here locally because I figured contractors would hang out there. And once they talked to me and got to know me, somebody would give me a shot, and that's what happened. So I got hired by SRS. Um, they told me it would take me about a year to learn roofing. It took me 6 weeks. You know, yeah, they were, it was kind of funny. I remember my branch manager coming out, it was about week 6, and he's like, I cannot believe that you knew all of that information. And I go, I know I'm a very quick learner.
Are you, is it, so when you learn, are you kind of just hungry and just want to be the best, so you take the time away from it, or you just retain it quickly and
I
just
have
kind
an
of connect the dots
audiographic
really quick?
memory.
Okay.
Okay, not photographic, audiographic. So if I hear something and I'm listening, I retain it. I can regurgitate it. I can do anything I want with it once I've gotten the information in my brain.
Yeah.
That's how I got through school. I never read a single book, right? But I had straight A's pretty much. Never read a book because I don't read well. I don't love to read, but I like anything that I hear. So
Yeah.
that's how I did it.
I think we're
From
similar
there,
there.
um, I ended up taking a job as a sales manager for a roofing company here that did a lot of storm work. I grew them from 1.4 million to 4 million, or wait, 1.7 million to 4 million the first year. They promoted me to general manager. We grew from 4 to 7 million the next year. And then, unfortunately, due to divorce and ugliness, he lost the business. And he had an invalid qualifier. In the state of Utah, in order to have a contracting license, you have to have a qualifier, and there's certain requirements. And I had found out by the attorney prior to him losing the business and went and got my GC license, right? So that I could replace his qualifier because I was considered a valid qualifier working within the business. And everything fell apart before I was able to do that. However, I now was a licensed general contractor. So as we were telling the company that, we were shutting down, my sales team's like, well, why don't you start a roofing company, Jen? You're a licensed general contractor. And I was like, yeah, that's a really funny thought. No, I had lived in low income housing until 2017. I was just getting myself recovered. For people that have been divorced, it sucks financially, to rebuild. And it was easier for my ex-husband because he was in the military and he had that stability in the income. It was really hard for me.
Yeah.
Um, Plus
I
all
feel
the
like a lot
attorney.
of good innovation and a lot of good thoughts. Every time that I've done these major growth opportunities, it's when my back against the wall. And I feel like when you're like a scrapper and you're just and you make things happen and you're just whatever, I feel like that timing really is a pivotal moment to kind of say, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to sit here and mope and self-pity? Or am I gonna, if I'm not the problem, there is no solution mentality, right? Or if I'm just gonna pioneer and just like trudge on. And it sounds like you just trudged on quick.
I did. Um, a story about that. So when I got divorced, I did not want to keep my name, my married name, right? Nor did I want to go back to my maiden name. That didn't make sense to me. So I didn't understand, and not that there's anything wrong with men, but I didn't understand why my identity had to be associated with a man. Why could I not have my own identity? Like, why does it work that way? So I decided I was going to make my name up. Everybody told me I couldn't do it. There's no way that that happens. Like, people don't just get to make their name up. So I did research and I found out I could. I had to run an ad in the paper, pay $2,500, and I could change my name. So I started trying on all these different last names, and I had three criteria. One, I didn't want to know anybody with that last name, right? Because it'd be weird, right? If I'm like, hey, Ed, I just wanted to let you know I'm going to change my last name to Payne.
I'd be flattered.
Well,
Makes sense.
yeah, but most people would be really weirded out, right? Second criteria was I wanted it to be sexy and memorable, but not like a stripper name,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like just more, just easy to say, memorable. And that was the last thing. I didn't ever want to have to spell it again. I was so sick and tired of having to spell my last name my whole life. Now it's just silver like the metal, and people are like, oh, I got it, right? So I tried on all these names. Ultimately, we chose silver, we being me and my group of friends, because that's who played the game with me, right? And when I went to mediation for my divorce, she asked me, she goes, okay, so what are you going to do about your last name? And I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I made up a name, and I tell her the story. And she literally said, I'm not supposed to swear, but that is the coolest fucking story I have ever heard. And I was like, oh, thanks. She goes, I'm just going to do you a solid though. I'm just going to write it in your divorce papers. You won't have to pay the $2,500 and it'll be done. I'm like, it works like that? And she goes, yeah, judge will sign it. I'm like, okay. That's what she did. And I took it to the DMV and I sent it to the passport office and everything. And I am now legally Jen Silver. But
Awesome.
that was
So,
part of my defining that next path forward, right?
right.
Like what you were saying, like, okay, back against the wall, I'm going to keep going. This is who I am, and I'm going for it.
I love that. No, I love that for you, man. That's awesome. I don't know if I would do that. I kind of like my last name, but it's
Yeah, well, you got a cool last name. I didn't.
Okay. So you get in the roofing business. Obviously, you're retaining really quick. You pivot. Talk about that first. Now you're a business owner versus business operator,
Yeah.
and so you make that leap.
So I
Talk
didn't,
about the first couple years of like growing and like what did it look like under your own brand?
it was hard. Okay. So I started Roofing Utah in December of 2019, right before COVID. And we thankfully had about $750,000 that the previous roofing company that I worked for could not complete. So we did a lot of contract transfers and completed a majority of that work. And he had retained the deposits on those and was supposed to pay that as soon as he was paid by the carriers. However, in the state of Utah, if you are an unlicensed contractor, if you were an unlicensed contractor, which technically, I guess that's what they considered him, you don't owe for overhead and profit. And so his huge accounts receivables balance went to zero because the carriers caught on that they didn't have to pay him anymore.
Wow.
And which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
So
But it wasn't like he screwed you. It was just kind of just a
it just
formality that you didn't know about. You didn't know what you didn't know kind of thing.
right. And he, called me in January of 21 and said, hey, I'm not going to be able to give you the 250,000 that I owed you.
I do have a question for you. I like asking this to all business owners. Is that the most expensive lesson you've ever had, or is there something more ouch than that?
No, that's by far the most expensive lesson I've ever
Especially for
had.
being so early too. So even if you had something relatively close, it's like it's different when you have money in the bank versus no money in the bank.
Now, we had never robbed Peter to pay Paul. Okay, so I never got supplier credit. I paid for the things that we could afford, and I was grateful for that because that 250,000 was really just our profit.
Yep,
That's what I lost, right? But with that being said, it was the winter, and winter in Utah is not always the easiest time to generate business, and still in the middle of COVID. So that I was counting on that to continue to carry the company. So in February, I brought the team over and I said, "Hey, I think we're done." Like we really gave it a go, and I'm proud of us for what we did, but nobody can sustain a $250,000 loss the first year and have money to keep going. We were down to $7,000 in our bank account, and I had applied for the second round of PPP loans, but the first round I only got like $3,000 because I hadn't been in business very long. So I really wasn't counting on it. And it took a really long time, the first round. So I didn't know. I just kind of had chopped it up to that's not going to work either. And my sales manager stood up and he goes, "We've all talked about it. You two single moms, you two take checks. Us guys are going to work for free. Just don't quit on us, Jen."
I love that. So, how did you cultivate an experience for that? Because I mean, that kind of giving mentality, it's one thing, you know what it's like. You invest in people and they don't always reciprocate it. That must have just been awesome to know like how you pour into people and to have it come back at you like that. Because it's and this is a second piece to that. You seem like a person that is willing to give. How are you at accepting help? Because I feel like you're one of those people that like naturally, I got you. But do you let people give that back to you?
I do.
Good.
I've learned over time how to do that. I
Okay.
was not always that way, right? And I learned that if I don't allow people to give and to help and support, I'm stealing from them,
I agree. I
right?
always
And
say like a
robbing them.
yes.
Yeah. It is hard sometimes. I'm not, I still do struggle occasionally, mostly on things I'm OCD about, not general help, right? Um, but I don't ask for help very often.
Yeah,
That's for sure. And a lot of that is just because it's all in my brain, and it almost takes more time for me to download what I need someone to help me do than it does for me to just do it myself.
okay.
That's a
So
pitfall.
so you got past that first year, struggle, very selfless team that I
I
mean
never
that's
had
a
to
true
not pay
team.
anybody.
Oh wow.
That, yeah, 2 days later, the PPP loan was deposited into our bank account and it was 44 grand. And that did it.
Look,
Yep. And the only thing we were missing was really branding and marketing. Well, marketing is what I called it at the time. And so we kind of divided and conquered, and I decided to get back on social media because I had been off of social media because I hate social media, but we won't go there. It's a great tool. And I
yeah.
figured I could use it as a tool if I could figure it out. And I sent 300 friend requests on March 2nd to people that I thought other people might ask about roofing. A lot of people from the country club, higher net worth people, just letting them know that I run a roofing company and this is kind of what we're doing. And I would do videos and customer education. And I don't know, I hit some kind of crazy Facebook algorithm of some sort. I have no idea how I did it or what I did, but I started to get 100 to 200 friend requests a day from like people. I was very specific. Like I went through them every night and only accepted people that fit within the boundaries of what I had originally set up. And then eventually it started to shift outside of Utah. And then it went into the roofing community. And then by June or July, I had 5,000 friends and 2,500 followers. And it was absolutely crazy.
I love that.
So
So, okay, so year two now, you got the money, you floated, and now you got a good team. Obviously, they love you to be able to make that kind of sacrifice potentially. And the next year two, did you take off?
So Yeah, we started to pick up. When we really gained a lot of traction was I was asked to speak at the IRE. Um, I'm with a group called Certified Contractors Network,
Okay.
and I was asked to go with them and speak at the IRE on adding an additional stream of revenue to your business. Okay. I'm thinking we're talking gutters, solar, like something like that. And I get
Ancillary.
to the conference and I'm talking to the president, and he goes, "No, you. We want you to talk about you as the additional stream of revenue, you, the brand, and what your branding did to your business." And I'm like, that's a weird concept. Like, who is going to find any like value in that? But okay. So I'm sitting on this panel, right? And we're talking about it, and almost all of the questions were directed towards me. And I felt really bad for the other guys on the panel. I kind of try to steer it back over there because it was such an interesting and different concept inside of our space at that time. Um, they ended up doing an article on it after that, and then I was asked to be on the cover of the Roofing Contractor magazine for the January edition. And I went on a small little tour with John Dye, teaching the retail model and the retail concept and utilizing the policy in a different way than arguing and fighting and, navigating with carriers because I didn't do that. I never had. We always did retail. Period. End of story. That if you get 80% of it, awesome. If you get 100% of it, that's even better. But we don't fight or negotiate or do any of that. And legally, you can't anyways. Um, it was then that we really started to pick up, and I wasn't home. And we went from, I think, 79 impressions on our website in July, and then August it was like 100 to 200, but then it went to 700 in September. And because we jumped so much, Google put us at the top, and the guys were busier than they've ever been. And I wasn't here to support the team. When I came back, and I was gone 5 weeks, when I came back, everything was in chaos. And ultimately, the team dissolved within 2 months of that.
Oh, wow. Is it because you were so new that you didn't have time to implement systems and processes and SOPs? And
We had
I
some
hear
of
this a
them.
lot. I hear this a lot from business owners and self included. I have so much in here that how do I put it out for everyone to kind of understand? So it's a lot of it is hard when the engine is kind of taken out, right? Unless you have
Yeah.
it.
We had the SOPs that was really the motivator, right? And the leader and the one that's like, "Hey, we got this. I know we're really busy and I know we're overwhelmed, but we can get through this. Let me see, how can I help you? How can I support?" Right? And they 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 looked at my traveling and saw me going out to dinner and doing these things like I was spending all the company money and I didn't pay for a single meal, right? But they didn't understand that. Meanwhile, they're back here working really, 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 really hard. And it was just it was bad communication is
No.
and not it was just timing and probably how it was supposed to go, to be honest, right? Like life always happens for you, even when you don't feel like it does in the moment, it does. And it moved me in a different direction. And that's when I planned my first speaking event because I knew that we were going to run out of cash flow. And I did a big event in Dallas, and life just kind of kept going from there.
What was your first event?
It was called, was my first event called? That's really sad.
What was the premise?
I think it was called One Industry, One Model.
Okay.
But it was all about that, right? Why do we have a retail industry that are roofing contractors, and then we've got roofers that do insurance proceeds work or storm chasers, right? Why don't we all do work the same way? Like, why does it have to be so divided? And why are they looked at so differently? And I had, Steve Badger there from the insurance side talking about the retail model and why it works and how he supports it, that contractors shouldn't be negotiating. and, fighting with insurance companies over line items and adding frivolous things. They should have a standard price, and that's what they charge, whether insurance is involved or not.
Yeah. Yeah, we've actually navigated a lot over the last couple of years, and it's like what we do is finance or do the deal, and if we can negotiate and do so meet with the adjusters and move forward, if we can reclaim the entire thing, so be it. But the reality that these people still need the roofs done, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yep. And
I
I
think
taught financing. Yep. That's a lot of what I did. And taught contractors how to incorporate financing into their business and how to utilize it. And it's smart, right? Off those people that don't offer financing, I still don't understand how they do it, because most people do not have 20 or 30 grand lying around. They're getting financed somewhere,
yeah.
right? Whether it's a loan from a friend, a parent,
Why do you feel like
somewhere.
you brought up an interesting thing because it's really weird. Like you look at some of the other trades like HVAC and plumbing and a lot of these chuck in a truck kind of mentality. But at least with most of these companies, they all kind of do it the same. What I've noticed about roofers is there's so many. Why do you feel that it is that you could have 10 different companies doing it 10 different ways? It's like very seldom do I find people that have structured back ends or do anything internally, or like everyone has a different philosophy. Have you been able to crack that code or even
No, I
dip it
think
in the
it's because
water?
the barrier for entry is low,
Yeah,
right? When you look at plumbing or electrical or some of those other trades, a lot of them require like very specific training and very specific licensing. Roofing, there's a lot of places that don't even require a license. There's
yeah,
a lot of,
Texas, Atlanta, Georgia.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There's several, Ohio. Um, so when you have something like that where the barrier to entry is really low, the quality of people isn't always consistent.
that makes sense. I like that answer. Okay, so now you're a young brand. You do your first show. What happened after that?
After that, I started speaking for GAF, and I did a lot of extra value events and started. I also did a tour of the One Industry, One Model. We hit 13 different states, um, which was a lot of fun. I had a lot of good speakers and good
What's one
people.
industry, one model mean? Is it just the retail model? Is it just, can you
Yeah,
kind
it
of break
was,
that down a little
well,
bit for me?
we talked about, yeah, we did do the retail model, but I also had people there talking about leadership or SOPs or, tax strategy, organizational psychology. Um, yeah, we had all kinds of different things, branding, marketing. It was just a business event, ultimately, is what it was. And it was 2 days.
Yep. And then for you, do you feel like owning a business or involving yourself in training, if you were going to compare the two as far as exponential growth, which one do you think paid more to your learning curve or more of a made you the type of entrepreneur you are today? Or would you say both?
Um, it's hard to say, right? Because I wouldn't have been able to do the speaking and the, interactions with all the other companies and the coaching and the developing and those things without having had my business, right? My business was critical. It still is critical, right? Um, and so I think they had to work together in order for me to be able to do the things that I'm doing. And I'm grateful for it because the contacts that I've made throughout the country and the people that I know are different than I would have ever had, or anybody else has probably had an opportunity to do, or the opportunity to have. So yeah, it's I don't know the answer to that question. It's really hard because they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I
Now
agree.
I've been home since 24, 24. Yeah, full time. I got full legal custody of my daughter. And
Congratulations.
thanks. And so it's a lot harder to travel, right? When you've got one at home all the time, and been focused on my roofing company for the most part. But that need of contributing to society and leaving the world a better place doesn't go away. So that's where the other projects came in.
So let's talk about that now. So congrats, and that's how I met you actually. One of my partners in one of my roofing companies said you have to meet this lady, and I hear that all the time. And then I talked to you, like I said, in the gym, and it was just an easy conversation from processes to systems to
Yeah.
replication to cash flow management. I mean, we were just talking about everything, and you were talking about love language, which very few people do, but it was just bullet points and stuff you can't fake, right? You either know it or you don't. And so that's what I really valued about you is that
Oh, thank you.
the ability to collapse timeframes for trust. And then the second thing is like you really are. Both of us were like, if you needed this, I'll give it to you. If you need this, I'll give it to you. It's just very easy as far as that transition. So first of all, so thank you for creating an atmosphere to make it real easy to just trust you because that's you can't fake that, right? You either have it or you don't, and you have it in spades. So the next part of the evolution is now you do a lot of mentoring, you do a lot of speaking, you do a lot of like boot camp type of stuff, and but you're not even stopping there. You have a product that you've come to market with,
I
and
did.
then you wrote a book. So let's segue into the product first of all, and then
So,
and why the industry needs this, and kind of why the importance of this product. And then secondly, I wanted to segue into um,
the book.
the book.
Yeah. So when I was on the road, I told contractors that the wind and hail claims, the small ones, they had 3 to 5 years and they'd be gone. They have to understand insurance companies are a business, right? And businesses can't sustain the bleeding that the roofing industry was doing to them. And, you know, as much as that sucks to hear, it is the truth. One thing I have a real that I think one of my superhero talents, so to speak, right, is I can remove myself from a situation, look at how all the spinning parts are going, and predict what's going to happen next, right? So I knew it was coming. There was just no way it couldn't. Now, I didn't think it would happen as quickly as it did, but contractors are stubborn, and they were making good money. And nobody wanted to believe that, wind and hail exclusions or were coming or that there were going to be special endorsements, with these large percentage deductibles. Like here in Utah, I've seen some that are 5% of their dwelling coverage. That's
That's
more than
high.
their roof. I mean, it's insane, right? Um, and so I was like, okay, well, this doesn't work. So let's see if we can figure out another solution so that we have something when this happens. And I started to work with an asphalt engineer and developed Rejuveroofs. And there were other rejuvenation products out there. All of them were franchised. Some of them seemed to work. Most of them did not. I wanted something that was going to functional, like improve the functionality of the roof, right? It didn't just hydrate it, but it helped the roof actually become stronger or lengthen the life of it. And with Rejuveroofs, we did that. You know, I have take my little sample boards with me everywhere because it actually shows you that the shingles reseal, right? It activates the tar strip. It will fill in hail divots. It will fill in thermal cracking. It will spread out over minor fiberglass. Like those are the things that I wanted to see happen because now with this coverage missing and people waiting, not being able to wait for the next storm, they have a less expensive option that they can choose, and any contractor can offer it. Free market, no territories. I won't do a territory. It doesn't matter what people say. I just won't. Like that's not how I designed it. And I wanted it this way for a reason.
No, I love that. And what made you get into that? Is it just because of the being a visionary and kind of navigating the landscape that says, "Hey, here's a problem," or was it just understanding the problem and something just came and fell into your lap that says, "Hey, this is perfect," or did you seek it?
So, I did not necessarily seek it, but I did understand shingle rejuvenation because Ugly Roof, who I think has a remarkable product, probably the best other one out there, to be honest. But they were franchise and they sponsored my tour. And I wanted to get set up in Utah and I couldn't because there were some weird rights of who had west of the Mississippi, who had east of the Mississippi. And I actually had an asphalt engineer reach out to me and say, hey, I have this product I've developed, but I don't know how to take it to market in the roofing industry. So can we work together? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I would have to have buy-in on this product and what it does. And that's kind of how it all happened.
Okay. Remind me to bookmark that. I think I got an opportunity for both of us. But okay, so awesome. So then now you're into this product. I know you pitched my companies as well, and so now you're going to market with this. Now full-time mom, brand, entrepreneur, roofing, materials, and now saying I'm bored. I'm just going to write a book. So let's talk about.
No, it didn't. It didn't happen exactly like that. So in 23, I actually started it. Okay. And I told myself consumers need to know what's happening. They need to understand their policy, right? They need to know why we're in the position that we're in from a from an insurance standpoint, like what's actually covered, the fact that it's a contract and you can rely on the contract. You don't have to go with their company policies and procedures or this. Well, that doesn't mean jack. What matters is what is written in your contract, right? And paying attention to the fact that they can change the contract on their side unilaterally without you having to sign. Open your mail from your insurance company. There might be something actually important in there, you know?
Yeah.
But I also wanted to explain how it all works. And, 99% of people, when I ask them, hey, do you know how much you would get if your house burned down today? Have no idea, right? I would say half of people don't even know who their carrier is.
Right.
So, in the bottom line is they don't have enough.
Yeah.
When people look
Especially in
at,
places like Florida and California. I mean, one of my buddies in Malibu, his house burned down. He got 60% of what he just paid to build it. I mean, it was a brand new house when the fires hit, and it's like people just insurance is
they
just
just
in
don't
case.
know.
Yeah,
And
no.
and and it doesn't matter, right? Like how educated they are, how wealthy they are. It's never taught.
Yeah.
When I gave my mom the book, she has an MBA now, she read it and she's like, I knew like none of this. She goes, how do I not know this? And I laughed and I go, because where would you have learned it? Right? It isn't something that anybody ever goes over. When people are insuring their contents, they don't think about their silverware or their towels or their sheets. They look around, they're like, oh, I've got a couch and I've got a table and, and they, or TVs or whatever. And that's what they use to establish their value. But that's not really where all the expenses are.
Yeah.
My husband said to me the other day, he goes, you probably have $10,000 in clothes and shoes. I probably do. You're right. Yeah. Okay, we should up our contents coverage. And so I did, because I wasn't really thinking about that.
Yeah, because you still got to replace it all. It doesn't matter. It's like it's all the nickel and dimes, right? It's the $1,000 shoes, it's the $20 shoes, it's all the above. It adds up
Right.
quick.
Yep. Yep. And you have to be able to pay off the loans and rebuild.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't look at it that way. So it was important to me to get that education out. When I saw my first policy here in Utah, I was like, oh crap, I got to get this book done
Yeah.
because it's happened, right? I waited, procrastinated, I don't know, put it on the back burner, told myself I wasn't good enough. Nobody's going to read a book that I write anyways, all of the things that we do as humans. And I don't know. I decided I wasn't going to listen to that version of my voice in my head and I was going to get it done and finish the book. And I did. And I'm really proud of it. And I've got an amazing forward. Chip Merlin wrote my forward and it brought me to tears. I've had, Steve Badger from the insurance side read it as well. Both of them felt like it was very fair, neutral, unbiased, no finger pointing, no big bad insurance companies, no, hey, every contractor, is terrible. It was just this is how it is. This is where we are. This is why, and this is what's coming.
I
So
love that. And now let's talk about like what you're trying to work with legislation and kind of let's segue into that next. Why don't
okay.
you give a little bit of a
So
backstory and then kind of where you're at today with it?
Well, because I don't have enough going on. Now, I have been talking I've been talking about a property savings account for years. And everybody I talk to is like, that's a really good idea. Somebody should definitely do that. And I'm
Well, I
thinking,
was a little bit ignorant too to this, so I had a couple ideas that I was way off. So assume people aren't as or
yeah, so
as
a
dumb as I
property savings account is similar, or the way that I've structured it in the white paper is very similar to a health savings account, right? So you take a portion of your paycheck and you say $50 goes to my property savings account, right? It's pre-taxed. Um, sorry about the dog. The reason it has to be a federal program is because there's tax implications associated with it that affect people federally, right? So it's a congressional white paper that has to go through the House and the Senate and be structured in a way because of the taxes, and then it's public policy also. So it has to have, very specific parameters like what's the maximum, what's the minimum. Um, I put in there maybe there's an employer contribution that they can do, but it vests at a certain point to help increase employee retention, right? Or we've got can parents contribute to their children's, right? Maybe for their first home, like different things like that, that Congress will have to decide how that looks, or whoever ends up drafting the bill finally will have to decide how that looks. But it's necessary. People are not going to save. We especially younger generations, we haven't taught them how to save. Most of them want to keep up with the Joneses and, buy the nicest new truck or nicest new, boat. And then you go and look at their house and the roof's caving in, right? Like our priorities are a little bit off. And in order to help fix that and train a different mentality, they need an incentive, right? And if there's a tax incentive towards it and helps them save at the same time, then I think it's a win for everybody.
like it. No, it's nice. I call those 30,000 a year millionaires. You know, they drive a Mercedes and they live in a apartment with five other guys or something.
Yeah, yeah,
It's kind of
yeah,
their priorities are a little off.
yeah.
Yeah. And in business owners, I call them Excellionaires. They all the money look at the Excel sheet, right? And it's they have no idea cash versus accrual, and they're spending money before it comes in.
No,
Yeah.
well, they look at gross profit, right? They look at their bank balance and gross profit, and they don't. I mean, I had so many contractors when I was on the road where I would say, 10 to 12% net profit is not bad,
Yeah.
right? Like that's not a bad net profit. And they'd be like, my profit's 43%.
Yeah. I hear that all the time, and I don't even want to argue with them. I'm
Like your
like,
gross profit is, I'm
yeah.
like, yeah,
At your cogs, all you're fixed. All yeah, no, I get you.
yeah,
Yeah, most business owners that I mentor, I first like quarter or two, I have them learn the basic gap accounting principles, just to be able to talk to an accountant or talk to their CFO if they are lucky enough to have one, because
yeah,
they just have no idea what the numbers are. They're great at what they do, but they don't understand the back end at all or the
yep.
numbers. So, and a couple other questions I love asking everyone is one, what is some of the biggest or phrase or words to live by or like quote that just you just love to say, like one or two quotes that just you live by, especially in business?
So my quote is when life gives you lemons, make orange juice.
Okay.
Okay.
My
Um,
ADHD is taking that in a
because
lot of different ways. So
everybody else makes lemonade,
yeah, do something
right?
different.
Yeah, do something different. Find a way to do something different.
Yeah.
And my absolute favorite quote is by Dr. Seuss. And it is, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. And that that is why I do what I do, right? I am just a regular nobody, but I am not going to give up because everybody else thinks it's someone else's problem.
Yeah. Now I know you mentor and teach a lot, and I love that about the like almost like philanthropy kind of pay it forward stuff. Who are one of your top leaders or influences that have helped cultivate that part of you that just made you the entrepreneur you are today? And what one or two lessons would you give them credit to that I could take away?
I've had good bosses and I've had bad bosses, right? Growing up in my career. Um, my mother is probably one of them, even though she was never an entrepreneur. She is one of the most driven, intelligent women I've ever seen, right? And doesn't get stopped by much. Um, I had a boss named David Kazarian, and when I started Payways with him, he gave me a book called The Oz Principle,
Mhm.
and it's about organizational accountability. And it was one of the best books I've ever read. And it really switched my mindset on running businesses and how you run a business. Um, and then I would say Scott Siegel at CCN is probably the other one. And he taught how to understand your numbers and the business side at CCN conferences. And that's really where I realized, oh, cogs in a restaurant and cogs in roofing are super similar, right? Like production. This is kind of the same thing. I got this and I could switch it all around because I'd run restaurant businesses, right? And that switch and that understanding and the time that he took in those classes is that's probably my top three.
I love that. Yeah, they all go exist. They all go together. Organization, make things happen, and then and obviously know the numbers, right?
Yep.
And once you understand, like I said, basic gap accounting principles are universal, right? It's not
Yes.
you got supply, which is ops, you got demand, which is sales, and you got finance. Those three principles, they're interchangeable,
Hmm.
regardless of the business type you're in. I love it. And I guess do one last question and then shameless plugs. What's next? Because it sounds like there's always something next.
Oh, so I was actually on the phone this morning with a uh, senatorial candidate here in Utah, and we were talking about the PSA, and I made a comment to her that my long-term goal and has always been to reform high school education. And she said, "Well, what does that look like?" And so I just, started spitballing like some of the things that I think need to be taught in high school, part of which is insurance, um, buying a home, compound interest versus fixed interest, the things that people don't learn, but is necessary to be a successful adult. And she goes, "Well, it sounds like you pretty much have an entire curriculum in your head." And I go, "Yeah, I do." And she goes, "Well, why don't you get it down and give it to me? And let's see what we can do to start making some of these things happen."
I love
And
that.
I said, "Okay." I go, "I need a few weeks. I got to get through the book launch, and getting this PSA moving." And I said, "But I will do that because that is truly my biggest goal."
So, selfish plug, if you're going to make one, if what would you like to promote? If for the audience, what would you like to let them know that you offer or what you do? If you're going to talk about your top one or two um, like priorities, like
Yeah.
what you want to be known for.
So one, if anybody wants a sample of Rejuvenoose, right, to prove that it is not snake oil, because those contractors out there, man, they do not want to believe you. They can reach out to me and you can get me at jen@jensilver.co, not com. Or the book should be done here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so as soon as we have final cover art, you'll be able to sign up for the drop of the release of that. And those are probably the two biggest things. And then if you want to see the property savings initiative, email me. I'll send it over, get it to your local congressman or congresswoman, and let's see what we can do to make a difference in the country.
Awesome. And then for those of you who follow, know that her links will be at the bottom of the pod as well. Well, once again, real pain equals real growth. Pain points. Jen Silver, thanks for just joining me, man. It's been awesome. I feel like I could talk to you for probably like 2 or 3
I know
hours.
we probably could have continued to go for a few more hours.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it.